My wife of 62 years was named Victoria, and almost everyone called her Vicki. Vicki's mother, Cleda Blanche Neville, was born in southern Illinois in the town of DuQuoin. Their family first came to America from England in 1634. Vicki's father, the Reverend Vasily Prodan, was born in the Romanian village of Moigrad, and he came to America in 1913 to avoid the Hungarian army draft. Vicki's parents met at a Baptist seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. Vicki was born in Orange, New Jersey, where her father was then teaching in a seminary. Some years after her father's death, Vicki and I visited a friend and former seminary student of her father, a Reverend Lukács. He was living in the Detroit area at that time. During our visit, he mentioned to Vicki, "This summer I am taking a group of people to visit their families in Romania. Would you like to come along?" That seemed to be a splendid opportunity to meet kinfolk. Vicki had several uncles and aunts, plus 13 first cousins living in Romania. However, before 1967, she had never been to that country, had never met any of her Romanian relatives, and knew essentially none of the language. With the help of translators, Vicki wrote several letters to Romania to alert the several relatives to her impending arrival. She then joined Reverend Lukács's travel group. In Romania, Vicki had planned to hire an interpreter so that she could communicate with her relatives. However, the chosen interpreter failed to show up at the prearranged meeting place in the Romanian city of Brașov. Thus inconvenienced, Vicki was able to find the National Travel Office in Brașov, where some of the people spoke English. And she asked them what she should do in her state of abandonment. They said she should take the train to her father's village, Moigrad. By the means of several trains, and finally a truck, Vicki arrived on a Sunday morning in Moigrad. It was a little village, essentially unchanged for the last 400 years. In 1967, Moigrad had no electricity, no running water, no powered vehicles, and no English. There, Vicki lived for 3 weeks. She survived the lack of a common language with her family members by the prompt invention of what I call Vicki's Law. That law states that the Romanian language consists of big Latin words and little Slav words. The English language, on the other hand, consists of big Latin words and little Anglo-Saxon words. Therefore, her conclusion was to not use little words. She used the biggest words that had the meaning she wanted, and she was understood by her Romanian relatives. When Vicki returned from her first trip to Romania, she was determined to learn some of the Romanian language. She tried several teachers in Ann Arbor before she really struck gold in the person of Paul Teodorescu. Paul was a teacher at the Monterey Language School in California, and he was momentarily between assignments. He was delighted to have a serious pupil who paid him money, Vicki traveled to Salinas, California, where Paul lived, and moved into a motel for 6 weeks. She had Romanian language lessons for 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. At the end of 6 weeks, she knew a great deal of the language. Shortly after finishing her Romanian language course, Vicki and I took a trip to Romania. On a Sunday morning, as we were heading for the airport, I did one last check of our travel documents. I discovered, to my horror, that the Hotel Intercontinental had scheduled us for their facility in Budapest, Hungary, rather than the one in Bucharest, Romania. These two cities are almost 700 miles apart. Panic. But then I had a bit of luck. Hotel Intercontinental had an office in Boston, and they answered the phone on Sunday morning. I asked them to cancel us in Budapest and give us a corresponding reservation in Bucharest. They said that the cancellation in Budapest was no problem. However, there was a trade fair going on in Bucharest, and there was no room at the inn. When I asked them what we should do, the voice on the phone said, "If I were you, I would go to Bucharest, go to the hotel, and see what happens." And that's exactly what we did. We got to the Hotel Intercontinental in Bucharest. The man at the desk, who spoke good English, repeated that they had no rooms. He added that it would be another hour before they knew whether they had any cancellations or not. I said, "We will sit right here in the lobby." As we sat on the sofa, Vicki started talking to a bellboy in the Romanian language. A few moments later, the man at the desk motioned me to him and said quietly, "How long would you like to stay?" And I told him 4 days. Later, I learned that the bellboy had gone to that man at the desk and said, "Give them a room. She speaks good Romanian." Thank you, Paul de Adorescu.